Hello and welcome to the History Cupboard, a show in which I delve into the dustier corners of the past and unearth interesting people and strange facts from history. Today we're going to be talking about berserkers, a very interesting class of Northern European warriors. And I'm asking, what were the berserkers? Did they really exist, or were they just myths? This is a description from the 13th century Ynglinga saga, written by the famous Icelandic poet Snorri Sturluson, and he writes, "Odin's men went into battle without mail coats and were as wild as dogs or wolves. They bit their shields, were as strong as bears or bulls. They killed people, but they were themselves not hurt, neither by fire nor iron. This is called going berserk." So what was a berserker? It was a class of warrior, a very elevated class of warrior. They were respected, they were seen as special, they were the sort of special forces of the day, and they were warriors who could summon the spirit of a wild animal into them, which would apparently give them the strength and ferocity of that wild animal. So bears or wolves sometimes, and some people think wild boar. How did you become one? When they were in this state, they would be in a frenzy, and they'd go charging into the enemy and slaughter them until they were probably killed themselves. So how did you become one? Some people think it was mushrooms, magic mushrooms or psychedelic mushrooms. I don't think this is very plausible, because I've known people who took mushrooms and they basically sat around giggling and looking at their fingernails, and they didn't turn into fearsome warriors at all. They sat in a corner and, examined the palm of their hand. Other people think it was drink, which is plausible, because people did drink before going into battle quite a lot. I mean, it helps with the pain, up until the First World War, where everybody had a tot of rum before going over the top. So alcohol is one thing. Personally, I think it was religious frenzy. It's something that's not very well understood, but people can enter an altered state through religion and belief, and sometimes music, and they can do very, very strange things. I saw a lot of odd things in India, where you have holy men who can kind of pierce themselves with knives and skewers and do all sorts of strange things in this kind of religious trance. So there are various states of mind that can be harnessed by human beings, and have been harnessed over thousands of years. So in my books, I've written a series of books about berserkers. The first one's called The Last Berserker, ironically, and there are 5 of them, and it's about 2 people who want to become berserkers. And in my books, I've created a special holy sacred place where berserkers would go, or would-be berserkers would go, and they would undergo ordeals and tests, and they'd receive training and various other things like that, a sort of academy for berserkers. And then the final test would be getting this wild spirit to come into them and possess them. And then they have to walk through a fiery, burning ship, and that's why they're called fireborn. So in my books, I've sort of created this framework to create a religious framework within which you can become a berserker. Essentially, they become possessed by non-human supernatural beings, and the Christians would have called this demonic possession, and indeed did. If anyone who's seen the movie The Omen knows what that sort of thing is. It's a very weird and kind of real human condition. How did I become interested in berserkers? I didn't do history, which some people find quite odd, but I did social anthropology at University of Edinburgh, and I was sent off to Indonesia to study religion and magic and sorcery and various interesting weird things. And I lived there for about 6 months, and one of the things that I came away with after that experience was watching people become possessed by spirits, their gods or their spirits, One particular story sticks in my mind. I remember going to a temple ceremony in Bali where I saw these two old ladies who were basically in their 80s, and they was hobbling around with sticks, and they were very, very decrepit, and then they became possessed during the ceremony after the gamelan music was dinning away, ding, 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 and they became possessed by the spirit of Arjuna, who's a warrior prince in his prime, about 2021, and they were suddenly transformed, and they were strutting around as if they were young men of 21. And that was quite extraordinary to see these two twins, old ladies twins, being transformed in this way. And I've always been fascinated by that ever since. And I took that experience of spirit possession and sort of grafted it onto 8th century Viking. So that's where my fireborn stories come from, that experience myself of witnessing possession. Are there any berserkers today? Yes, there are. That might surprise people. There's something in Malay, in the Malay language. Indonesian is a version of Malay language called running amok or amok, and that's also transferred into English. We got it from colonial days, and it means going completely crazy and killing everybody or attacking people and behaving pretty much exactly like a berserker. So in Malaysia or Indonesia, when people run amok, the only thing you can do is kill them. And when you, because they're so strong and dangerous and crazy, and the only and when I remember asking somebody in Indonesia what was happening when people ran amok, and he said, well, they become possessed by the spirit of tigers. So spirit of tiger possession and spirit of bear possession seem to be the same human condition. Anyway, so why do I admire them when they're so brutal and dangerous and outright, monstrous? There's a Viking saying that's attributed to Odin, which I particularly like, and it is, fear not death, for the hour of your doom is set, and none may escape it. The Vikings knew that everybody dies, and in the violent 8th century, they knew that it was where my Fireborn novels are set. They knew that it was the way that you died and the honor that you accrued in your death, which was more important than the number of years that you racked up. And I think that's quite inspiring. Anyway, I've written about this in my novels, the Fireborn novels, which start with The Last Berserker. That's the first one. And the 5th one, which has come out just recently, is Blood of the Bear. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you very much.